I'm sitting there the other day, and I get a phone call from my wife, and she says, honey, I got a little bit of a problem. And I said, well, what's going on? She said, well, I'm driving, and there's this thing flying around on the inside of the car, and she says, so I go to roll down the window, and I roll it down, and then all of a sudden I hear this clank, clink, boom, and she said, the window went down, but there's a problem. It won't go back up. And I said, so what's the problem? She goes, have you looked outside this morning? It is pouring down rain. And I said, oh, that's a problem. And I said, all right. So I said, I'll tell you what, why don't I call the shop and see if they can get us in, and we'll go take, we'll figure it out. So I called the shop, and the shop says, yes, we can get the car in, and we'll take care of it. I said, okay, so I got to admit, there's a little part of me that's like, it's one of those things where I got a lot on my schedule, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, all right, we got this. So anyways, I get in my car, drive, and I go get the car. In the car, of course, she has taped a plastic bag over the window. Makes sense, right? All right, so I get in said car, and I start driving. And it's like, at first, it's kind of doing this flappy thing, you know what I mean? And I'm kind of doing one of the, I'm like, okay. And I'm driving it, and it's starting to get flappy more thing, right? And I'm looking at it, and I'm starting to, and it's like, all right. And then it becomes a big flappy thing, right? And it's flappity, and now I'm just sitting there going, one of those moments, right? And it was so interesting because I was sitting there, and I was annoyed, highly. Not a little bit, a lot, right? And I'm just looking at this thing, and all of a sudden, it's like, Mike, you do have another choice. Like, what choice? The window's not working, the thing's flappy, it's raining. What do you mean I got another choice? And it's like, well, you do have another choice. I'm like, what's that choice? And it's like, well, there may be, something you've learned, maybe a spiritual tool that you might want to try to apply to the moment, this thing you get and talk about every Sunday. In other words, you actually might want to do what you talk about you do every single Sunday. Yeah, but right now? It's like, yeah, Mike, right now. Okay, fine. What can I do? I don't know. You like breathing. Why don't you try breathing? Breathing. You mean like as in, yeah, do that, Mike. That would be a really good idea right now. That's not helping. Keep breathing, Mike. It's feeling a little bit better. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Flappity. Still going on? I am in total bliss. Total bliss. I don't care about the damn flappity thing. I don't care the rain's coming in and I'm getting soaked. I just don't care. Why? Because I'm hanging out with God, folks. I'm hanging out with God. In the middle of all this, flappity, rain pouring down, and just 3 minutes ago, it was like, wow. And so all of a sudden, it's like within a couple of minutes of doing something very simple, I'm having this incredible experience with God. And it was profound to me because as I'm pulling into the shop and getting it fixed, I'm just sitting there going, if you were to look at that from the outside, did anything change on the outside? anything? Nothing changed on the outside. Where did all the change start? Right here. And so when I thought about that, I was like, wow, like, that was a God experience. And then I thought to myself, how often do we have this thing called a God experience? And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to ask people what their God experiences are like. Because I know, that we all do it differently. Don't we? So we all do it differently. So my question is, what's your God experience? That would be great, Chuck, if you could get I forgot about that. If you could get a mic fired up, that would be cool. If you can, don't worry about it. If you can't, don't worry about it. But I'm just curious. Like, I'm honestly curious to know if somebody would be willing to share. I don't want a 10-minute story. I just want like a thing that you do, or maybe just a way that you have your own experience. Because in my opinion, when we start talking about, you can really have that kind of an experience when you're driving around with flappity, flappity, flappity going on? It's like, oh yeah. And while, yes, we can have a nice experience when we get together on Sunday morning, and we can have a nice experience if we go sit on the mountaintops in the Himalayas, and we can have these really incredible experiences, I think it's way more powerful to give yourself permission to actually do it every single moment of your life. Because in my opinion, God is kind of like gravity. It's always on. That's what I believe. So I'm just kind of curious to know, would anybody like to share what their God experience is like, or how they do it, or anything? There's no limitations on this. Yeah, Jay. Hold on. Yeah.
On the way here, I was contemplating a decision about my role in this community. And one way that God speaks to me is through license plate numbers. And so as I was thinking about this decision, I was on the highway and I saw a license plate that had 4444, and I was like, hello.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's always the way that I am able to communicate and just get that information to really sink in and come through, is just through those numbers.
Right. So angel numbers, right? The angelic numbers. And so that showed up for you, and you're like, hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yep. Okay.
Hi, God.
Thanks.
That's
Thanks for
beautiful.
the confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That always
Beautiful.
helps.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was so beautiful. Yeah. Who else would like to share? Joy?
So for me, it's being more in silence, where I used to have, driving, I used to have the radio on all the time or TV on, and now if I'm driving, I just drive in silence, and I notice, like in the spring, all the blossoms and the trees and, so many flowers. And then cooking now, I just don't have any noise on, I just appreciate the smells of the food and just the whole process of making healthy food.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Actually having the experience of this thing flowing through you. Yeah, so beautiful. Trish, go ahead.
This weekend, before the rain, I was sitting outside watering my grass, and there's a woods next to my condo, and I glanced over, and there's a deer standing there. And he's staring at me, and I'm staring back at him, and we stayed in that position for probably 10 minutes before he decided to walk away. He was content that I wasn't coming after him or anything.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a God experience for me.
Totally. Like, awesome, out in nature. Maybe one more. Anybody? Huh? There we go. Phyllis.
Why is it I dream constantly, and I have weird, inexplainable dreams? And then I will wake up and look at my digital clock, and invariably it is 333 or 555. And I'll think, somebody's here helping me.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful, even in both examples, that as you start to play this game a little bit more, you'll start to notice things like that happening. You'll start to notice things are trying to connect with you, and you're seeing it, and it's just these little tap on the shoulders that say, hey, by the way, God's thinking about you right now. And then you start to notice it, and then it becomes this beautiful, amazing, incredible dance. So I started to think about this experience I had, because it was like, wow, that's, and I kept coming back to this. What was the difference between the beginning of the ride and then the end of the ride? And what was so funny was I was sitting at my computer preparing this talk. Check this out. And all of a sudden on my computer, bam. I'm not kidding. Not connected to power. Not connected to power. What are the chances of that? I mean, come on, give me a break. I mean, seriously. Yeah, I was not connected to power. I wasn't connected in. I wasn't taking the time to actually remember who and what I am, to remember who and what I can connect to if I actually take the time to do it. Yes, it takes effort. But it did happen, and then, of course, that shows up. But it's this whole idea of connecting. And I thought about Fillmore, who said, we're not to expect any other God to come to us than the God that is in us. It's not out there, folks. Maybe it is, but I'm just saying the experience is more inside of us, right? It's the indwelling spirit that we are seeking. And this spirit is God. This spirit. And I thought about a few other places. When I thought in the Bible where it says, be still, like you said, be still and know that I'm God. And then there's a story back in the New Testament or the Old Testament with Elijah, and somebody was telling him how to go experience God. And the story goes, he said, go out and stand on the mountain before God, for God is about to pass by. Now there's a great wind, so strong it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks into pieces before God. But God wasn't in the wind. And after the wind, there was an earthquake. But God wasn't in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a fire. But God wasn't in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of silence. Sound of silence. Maybe we want to pay attention to that one, right? A sound of silence. And the more I thought about this, what came to mind as I was processing this, Brother Lawrence, anybody ever hear Brother Lawrence? 1600s, he was a monk. He was the one who actually said, you can practice this. Think about this for a minute. You actually can practice the presence of God. You can do that. How many people knew you could do that? I think that's fascinating. Like, you can really do that. And again, how is it going to look? It's going to depend on you and how you choose to do it. But here's what I want to encourage you to do. Practice. Practice it. In the moment, that's what I was looking for. I was really looking for God. That's what I needed. What did I have to do, though? I had to pause. I had to slow down and go, oh, that's right. I've got all this stuff available to me, but I just got to remember to use it. So in other words, God's not going to beat you over the head and say, let me in. That is not the way it works. It doesn't. It's invited in. God's not going to do anything to you unless you ask that Spirit to come in. And what Brother Lawrence said was, we must merely open our hearts to receive God and God's loving presence wherever we are, be it in the bustling kitchen or in our knees in prayer. Or driving down the road with flappity, flappity, flappity. Right? Yes, it can be like that. It really can be like that. He goes on to say, learn to practice the presence of God in one single act that never ends. Oh my God. That is profound. That is beautiful. You mean to tell me I can really do this thing called experiencing God and it never has to end? Who do you think's saying it has to end? Do you think God's saying that? Do you really? No. Who says it has to end? Smile. We do. We do. And so it's this, wow, this is incredible. Like, it doesn't even have to end. Every action, no matter how mundane, can be done for the love of God and becomes a means of experiencing God's presence. You mean I can take out the trash and experience God? Mm-hmm. You mean I can brush my teeth and experience God? Yep. You mean I can have flappity, flappity, flappity and experience God? Yep. You can. Because of who and what you are and because of who and what God is. You absolutely can have that experience. It could be never ending if that's what you decide. But I'm telling you, God is not going to come down and force you to do it. That's not the way it works. It is not. To me, when I thought about it, I thought about spiritual integration. And what he goes on to say is, ideally, one's daily work and tasks should not be seen as separate from our spiritual life. This is so funny. Why is it that we think they're separate? Why is it that, well, I'm going to go to church on Sunday, and then I'll have my yummy, fun feeling, and I'm out. I got to get on with my life. I got to show up at work. I got to punch the clock. I got to do da 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 da. And for some reason, and by the way, guilty as charged in the past, is that I thought they were separate. I thought that they didn't mesh. And the truth is, they can come together. We can actually have that experience in our day-to-day life, in our work life. We actually can do that, but it's going to take some effort in order for the two to become one. I love this picture. To me, it represents the two coming together in here. And I just think it's so special. I really, really hope and pray that you just understand how much you're loved, how special you are, how much you are needed, how much you matter, because of who and what you are. You are an incredible reflection of the divine. And I don't care what anybody else tells you, including yourself. You are brilliant in your divinity. You are brilliant in who and what you are. And we are all so incredibly lucky to have you. Much love to you. God bless. Namaste. And I made up a new word that I've shared with you, but for the new people, it's called Namawe. And that is, I salute your path and all your pain and your suffering that got you to this moment right here and right now. Namawe.
Hey, it's Reverend Mike here. I just wanted to stop for a moment before you get on with your day, and thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. It means the world to us, and I just wanted to let you know if there's anything that we can do to make your experience even better, please do not hesitate to reach out by going to our website. I also wanted to offer you the opportunity for us to get together and sit down so I could get to know you a little bit better and answer any questions that you have. I can either do that by either getting together in person, have a cup of coffee, or we can meet online via Zoom. If you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at michael@courage2thrive.com. And lastly, if you find these messages are helping you, we would be tremendously grateful if you'd consider donating to the center. The best and the easiest way to do that is simple. Just go to our website. Again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Hope you're doing well. God bless, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye now.